Now this is what we call a cold open. This week, Nintendo released their first quarterly sales of 2026, which brought us some insight into how sales are going with not just the Nintendo Switch 2, but also with its games. There's been some really great news on this front for fans of certain franchises such as Tomodachis Life, whose latest entry has sold over 8 million units. But some of the news has been a cause for concern for a lot of people, particularly Star Fox fans. Star Fox 2026's sales data is not shown in the financial report. Generally speaking, if Nintendo does not show sales data, it is because the game did not reach 1 million sales. And in the current era of gaming, if a game does not reach 1 million sales, particularly from a big company like Nintendo, usually it is declared a flop. It is a financial failure. All that was said of Star Fox's sales was that it performed steadily, much like Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. The added cause for concern there is that Yoshi and the Mysterious Book has not crossed 1 million sales, and that game was released in May. Because of this, a lot of people are speculating that Star Fox 2026 was a flop. Prematurely speculating, I would say. The cutoff date for the report is June 30th, which is 5 days after the release of Star Fox for the Switch 2. Expecting a niche returning franchise to make 1 million in less than a week is a really tall order. Even with the Super Mario Galaxy movie bolstering Fox McCloud's popularity, I think it still merits mentioning that this series has just traditionally never been a huge powerhouse success. It's kind of okay if it hasn't hit 1 million in 5 days. In fact, I didn't think anyone expected it to. I had personally written off this report as being probably a nothing burger in terms of actual sales numbers, because we don't even have a week's worth of data. When Nintendo said that the game was performing steadily, I actually took that to be a really good sign. But because I like to be thorough and I'm nosy as heck, I went back and I looked at some of Nintendo's other financial reports over the years to see if they had used any similar wording in the past. Here's what I found. In March 2025, they mentioned sales growing steadily in the same sentence that they talked about Super Mario Party Jamboree selling over 7 million units, Echoes of Wisdom selling over 4 million units, and the Thousand Year Door remake selling over 2 million units. The same goes for here in March 2023, when they also just say, other titles continue to sell steadily. And this here too from November 2023 also mentions the sales of other titles continuing to grow steadily. Growing steadily appears in years upon years of these reports. These are just 3 more examples of it being said, but there's actually way more than that from what I found. I think maybe they just like to say that things are growing steadily as a general way to say that games are selling without listing the actual number. If this does nothing to calm some of your worries, let's try another tactic. In my mind, the best way to figure out if Star Fox did poorly is to look at the sales of a game we also thought would be poor. And that is Metroid Prime 4. Bars. I scoured every financial report that has released since Prime 4 came out, and I have found that there's not really anything for that game. Not a single mention of its sales, not even a single mention of the game itself. And I'm not saying that to scare Metroid fans, but I am saying that I think it may actually be a good thing that Star Fox was brought up at all. Now, granted, in February, a reporter named Steven Totillo claimed that a Nintendo rep told him that the game had sold over 1 million units combined between the Switch 1 and Switch 2. But even in this recent quarterly report that came out this week, there's no sign of that. So I'm a little concerned that maybe that info about Prime 4 isn't entirely accurate. Not sure though, but I did just want to point that out. With all of that being said, I really don't think we have enough data to firmly declare if this game is a success or a failure yet. I think we're just gonna have to suck it up, and we're just gonna have to be patient, which sucks. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. It sucks. Especially if you're a notorious worrywart like me. When I feel a lot of anxiety, usually I try to find something actionable to do to get rid of that anxiety. And usually that involves tackling the source of the anxiety, because if you feel anxious about something and you don't do anything about that thing, the thing is probably not going to change the feeling of anxiety because nothing's happening. So Ordinarily, I would tell people to follow that advice. But in this situation, I don't know how you would follow that. I don't think it applies here. It might even be tempting to say, oh, go out and buy a bunch of copies. To which I would actually tell you in reply, in this economy, let's be reasonable about this. There is something we can all do for free if we are concerned and we need an outlet to channel all of that anxiety and channel all that energy towards. And that's by doing something as simple as talking about the game and what you like about it. Getting conversations going, making fan art, writing fan fiction, sharing your works, sharing your ideas. I know sharing stuff is scary, especially when it comes from the heart. Every time I make a Star Fox video, even though I'm excited to get it out, I'm still scared. Because what if people hate it? I mean, someone's gonna hate it somewhere, right? That's just part of being a content creator. But, you know, I know that sharing stuff is scary, but that is the kind of thing that keeps fandoms going and it keeps generating buzz. Come up with cool world building ideas for the Lilat system. Map out a whole theoretical sequel to the new game. Talk about what kind of DLC you'd like to see. Just promise me you are not going to go pick fights with people because that's never worth it. Your time is precious, don't spend it arguing on the internet. We can't feasibly all go buy hundreds and thousands of copies of the game, but we can generate interest and hype by sharing our love for it. And that is something anyone can do. So let's do it! And because it will bother me if I don't mention this, I do want to talk about one more thing. In the past, I have very vocally questioned this return to Star Fox 64. In my videos, I claimed that it was an unsafe move and that people would complain about the game's length versus its cost. I also pointed out that the game's original version was already available to play on the Switch 1 and Switch 2, which made a remake of that same game feel even more questionable. Given the level of hype around the game when it launched, partially due to Fox being in the Mario Galaxy movie, and given how it was doing quite well on the eShops and stuff like that, I'm not convinced that I was right to worry about that back then. And I really don't want to have been right. I want the game to sell well because that means we get more Star Fox games sooner than 10 years from now. And as a fan, that's what I care about the most. And even if the game has yet to hit 1 million sales, I think it's important that we remember that the holidays are still coming up. Black Friday could see a boost in sales, as could just all of December and January. There's a ton of holidays in those 2 months. And those sales will not be reflected in the November report either. There's just a lot of factors that haven't gone into play yet. For now, I am not worried about data points that we don't know, and I refuse to spend my time worrying. If it doesn't hit 1 million by November or even February, then I'm going to worry. And I will do a sequel video titled, Okay, Now I'm Worried. Please look forward to that maybe happening or maybe not happening, who knows really. Thank you for watching this very thrown together video. I have to go now, so send me all of your energy because guess what? I get to edit 2 videos back to back today. Yay!